Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here, and I thoroughly enjoyed that presentation. It's evident that South Sudan has great potential for generating economic growth through its agricultural sector. It's also equally evident that the government has put a lot of thought and energy into developing a very comprehensive strategy for developing its agricultural sector. So I would like to just offer comments on a couple of four themes that I think were brought out in the minister's presentation. First, a word about increasing agricultural production. That's clearly one of the top priorities for the government. And focusing on agricultural research, I think, is something that we would all acknowledge as a very important step in building the backbone for a strong and sustainable agricultural sector in South Sudan. I'd also like to suggest that we're exploring in some other countries in the region the idea of trying to identify technologies that currently exist and that could be deployed much more quickly to help boost agricultural production. So that's an area that perhaps is worth exploring in South Sudan as well, as trying to do some more work on, especially through the CGIAR system, on identifying existing technologies that can be put into the field very quickly. On markets, I think, again, it's interesting to note that South Sudan has ample production capacity, and it also has a very low population density. And I think if you look out over a few years, assuming, as we all hope, that South Sudan will have great success in increasing its agricultural productivity, it's worth thinking about where the markets for its agricultural products are going to be. Obviously, it's going to be necessary to look beyond the borders of South Sudan. And as a landlocked country, it's going to have some challenges, perhaps. So it might be worthwhile considering, from the beginning, how to engage more regionally in efforts to develop markets. Also, in terms of promoting private sector investment, I think that's, well, there are a number of issues that were highlighted relevant to expanding markets for Sudan's agricultural products, South Sudan's agricultural products, including infrastructure and storage and private sector investment. I think those are all critically important from our perspective, but that links to the policy environment, which is the third area I wanted to comment on. And here, I think the minister talked about the need to get the policy environment right in order to incentivize private sector investment, and certainly that's something that we would see as important. There's another reason, I think, to try and get the policy environment right, and that's to help maximize the effectiveness of scarce government resources. And it was mentioned that, in fact, the government's resources are constrained, so it's very important to try and get the policy environment, to establish a policy environment that maximizes efficiency in the use of those scarce resources, as well as focusing on private sector investment. And just finally, let me say a quick word about risk. I think you brought that up, maybe not directly, but you did mention a number of key risk factors in South Sudan. One was the dependence on oil revenues, another was water, and a third was conflict. It's obviously dealing with risk is something that is critical in order to maintain a resilient and sustainable agricultural system. In a number of countries, the World Bank is conducting risk assessments. I don't know that has been done in South Sudan, but that's certainly something that might be an early step. In addition, there's been a lot of focus on developing risk monitoring tools and as well as providing tools to deal with both sovereign risk and producer risk. It's a very difficult and complex area. I know the progress in some of those areas has been very slow, but it would certainly be interesting to see how some of those tools could be applied in South Sudan as to provide a strong underpinning for the agricultural sector. I think I'll stop there.
Thank you, David.